Hey guys, what's going on? Today we're going to be looking at Chapter 13, which is an introduction to probability. So, probability, as you probably know, is the chance of an event occurring. So, the sample space describes all of the possible outcomes of an event. Okay, so sample space can be displayed with a table or a list and or a tree diagram to determine the probability uh, of simple or compound events. So that's all put in a pretty formal way. When we take a look at an example, it might become a little more clear. So for breakfast, Stevie can choose cereal, eggs, or a muffin. He can also drink coffee, orange juice, or milk. Make a list and show all of the possible outcomes that can occur, and then how many total outcomes are possible. Okay, so it's good to start off with a list, or it specifically asks you to make a list. So let's call this C for cereal, E for eggs, M for muffin, uh, let's say CO for coffee, OJ for orange juice, and then MK for milk. Okay, so going through making a list, okay, it's best if you just decide to go one by one. So by that I mean we have two components here. We have a food and we have a drink. So let's start off with one of the foods, say cereal. Okay, and then now let me also list out what's possible for my drinks after that. So I can have cereal, then I could decide to have coffee. I can have cereal and then decide to have OJ. I could have cereal and then decide to have milk. Go to the next food. Okay. I can have eggs, then decide to have coffee. I can have eggs, then decide to have OJ. I can have eggs and then decide to have milk. Last food. I can have a muffin and decide to have coffee. I can have a muffin and decide to have orange juice. I can have a muffin and then also decide to have milk. Now I've covered every possible outcome. So for the total amount of outcomes, we just add all that up. So that's 9. So 9 outcomes are possible. And that's really all there is to it. So let's go to the next. So at registration, a student can select from Spanish or French class. They can also choose to they can also choose either art, music, or theater. So make a tree diagram to show all the possible outcomes. How many total outcomes are possible? Okay, so a tree diagram. You could approach this a couple different ways, but let's just go in the order it tells us. I could choose Spanish. I could also choose French. If I choose Spanish, I can also choose to take art, music, or theater. If I choose French, I can also choose to have art, music, or theater. Okay? and then list the total outcomes, well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 possible outcomes. Tree diagrams are usually favored for most things in probability. Just an FYI. So now on to really what's going to be the shortcut to all this. It's where you don't per se have to make a list or a tree diagram or a table. So the fundamental counting principle is used to find the total amount of outcomes, which is what we've been doing, by multiplying each possible outcome for each choice. Okay, so this is a very fundamental rule of probability. And now it makes things a little shorter. So let's look at example 3. Elizabeth is packing her lunch tomorrow. She can make either a ham, turkey, or peanut butter sandwich on either white or wheat bread. Find the total possible outcomes. So for the sandwich, there's 1, 2, 3 choices, 3 times, and then there's 2 types of bread, 2. So 3 times 2 is 6. So there's 6 outcomes. And if you did a tree diagram or a list, it would show the same. So when signing up for classes for the first semester of college, Kaylee has 4 class spots to fill with a choice of 4 literature classes, 2 math classes, 6 history classes, and 3 film classes. Find the total or number of possible outcomes. Okay, so this one's also a good example on when making a list or a tree diagram would be pretty hectic. It would take up a lot of space. So the multiplication rule or the fundamental counting principle is very useful here. It's going to make our work a lot quicker. So there's 4 possible classes. Okay, you have a lit class, literature class, you have a math class, a history class, and a film class. So you have 4 possible literature classes, 2 possible math classes, 6 possible history classes, and 3 possible film classes. So you multiply all that together. 4 times 2 times 6 times 3. So that goes to 8 times 18, which goes to 144 outcomes. Okay, that is it, guys. Thank you.